Hey, it's Sunday. Welcome to Daily Distinction. I'm really glad that you're here. And I just noticed my best pal, Brian Proud, is watching on Instagram already. Hey, man, talk to you soon. Hope you're doing good. Hope everybody's doing great. And wherever you are today on this Sunday, hope things are going well for you. I'm a little bit casual here today. Tammy and I are going to go take a walk around the neighborhood and try to get out and move around a little bit. So we're going to get that done a little bit later on today. We're doing a FaceTime with family right after I get off here. And then we are going to be going for a little walk, trying to stretch our legs a little bit. So great to have you here. Great to see you today. Thank you for taking time to join on Daily Distinction. And I want to remind you that coming up tonight, it is once again time for the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott. That's at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Please, please, please set a reminder because the show last week was off the hook. It was really fun. A lot of laughs, really great, some really great information too. Both Ken and Glenn are such deep thinkers and really connected, and they have such great information. But it's just such a pleasure to be a part of that. And I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you tune in tonight. Set a reminder. So get with us. It's going to be tonight. And look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Phil, it wouldn't be a day without you being here. I owe you a call. We're going to make that happen probably tomorrow because we're doing family stuff and then the show today. So I'll look forward to catching up with you soon. And Charles, again, you're one. It's not a show if you ain't here. We probably wouldn't even continue if you weren't checking in. So I appreciate it. You're looking over the fence from California. Yeah, California is closing the borders and not letting anybody from Nevada in. It's certainly changing. So hope you're doing well, my friend. Hey, Dwayne wants to know how many black shirts do I own? All of them. Yeah, it's a weird story, Dwayne. But back when I was a TV news anchor, when they promoted me to anchor at the CBS affiliate, the then CBS affiliate in Indianapolis, I had to go to this wardrobe consultant. And she tried all kinds of different stuff. And that's very typical in the television business. And she said, and she told this to my boss, the news director, Lee Giles. She said, this guy can never be on the air without wearing black. So every time, and it got so boring in a way, every time I was on the air, the only thing I could wear was, I'd wear a shirt and tie, but I had to wear a black blazer, black coat. And so one of the interesting things was, she said just something about my, that was about all that looked good on me. Well, anyway, so I saw where Steve Jobs, and I'm not doing this because of Steve Jobs. That's not why I'm doing it. But one of the cool things is that when you only wear, and particularly as much as I was traveling, when you only wear the one color, then everything is mix and match. So it made it so much easier to pack. And it's like every morning I just go in and grab a black shirt, and it makes it really easy. And the funny thing now is it's kind of become, there were some speaker friends of mine that were talking about, there was a guy in Chicago that had never used his name on the air. Other people would say, hey, Wally, his name's Wally Phillips. Other people would say Wally, but he would never say his own name on the air. And there was a contest if anybody could find an old recording of when he said his name on the air. And it was really hard to find. But anyway, that's the brand. And so the reason I brought that up is that was kind of his brand. He didn't say his name. And I showed up someplace. Tammy and I were getting ready to go someplace. And I put on some other shirt. And she said, go back and take that off. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, it's not a brand unless you wear it all the time. Right? If you only wear it part of the time, then it's not a brand. I mean, Southwest Airlines isn't nice to their passengers just part of the time. You got to be that way all the time to be on brand. And so kind of a weird thing, but it's kind of become a brand that's what I do. Yeah. Well, I, I would love his money. Right? I would love his money. That Johnny Cash had. What a talent. What a guy. That's he had a purpose for wearing black. I just wear it because started out I was told to, and then worked out pretty well. Hey Sheila, great to see you. Glad that you're here today. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Phil, there's a couple that made it happen. I was talking about Steve Jobs. So Sunday. Hope everybody's good today. Had something happen. It was kind of interesting. So we attended church this morning. Streaming service that the church that we go to here in Las Vegas puts on, and they do such a great job. Our church is Verve. If you like to check out our church, it's vivalaverve.org. Viva, V-I-V-A, La, L-A, Verve, V-E-R-V-E.org. And they're doing a program, the series of programs that our minister Vince Antonucci is talking about is on rebooting, how to reboot your life and how to reboot things. And it's really a terrific series. But they a buddy of mine that also attends the church, and he won the world championship of public speaking with Toastmasters. So he's world champion speaker, classic guy, Darren LaCroix. And Darren did like a fake commercial. And the fake commercial was how to be more decisive. And the way that you be more decisive, according to the fake commercial, is you just say yes about everything. and the idea is if you just say yes to everything, you're going to be right at least half of the time. It doesn't matter what it is. If you just say yes to everything, you're right half of the time. So just say yes. And it was a hilarious fake commercial. But I'm certain that what Darren didn't know, and I'm certain that what our Vince, our minister, didn't know is my first book was entitled Just Say Yes. This is the very first thing I ever wrote. And you'll also see there with Antonia Barnes-Boyle. Tony Boyle was kind of, I don't, side subject, I don't believe in ghostwriters. If I write the speech, but somebody gets up and gives it instead of me, who's the speaker? It's the person that gives the speech. So that's part of why I have a problem. And other people have done it, and I'm absolutely fine with that as long as they're open and honest about it. But I see a lot of folks that have ghostwriters write their book and then they claim credit for it. Just a difference of opinion, not a big deal, but just part of what I think. So that's why I put her name on the cover. And I mentioned it here in the book that she and I wrote it together. So I consider All Business is Show Business my first book because that's the first one that I sat down and I wrote every word that's in that book. Anyway, as you can see here, Jim Palmer, the baseball player, wrote the foreword for it and endorsed it. Anyway, the reason it was titled Just Say Yes is because this came out during the time of Nancy Reagan telling us all about drugs to just say no. Now, while that was a powerful message that what you do with drugs is just say no, it became part of the national vernacular that we were going to talk constantly about saying no, just say no. And I thought it became pretty important that there ought to be something in there that we were willing to say yes to, that there was something in there that we were willing to affirm. If you're going to say no to drugs, that's what we should do. But what we weren't doing a very good job of talking to people about what they should just say yes to. So that was the original idea. If we're going to tell people to just say no, let's also tell them to just say yes. All right. So then I started researching for the book. And what I found out was really fascinating. And I want you to take two thoughts and hold these two thoughts in your mind simultaneously. Okay. Here's thought number one. Human beings are creatures of habit. If you don't believe that, and we've done this before, try folding your arms the other way and see how uncomfortable it is. If you don't believe that, fold your fingers and interlock your fingers and look what thumb you've got on top, and then try to do it with the other thumb on top and see how uncomfortable that feels. Do you have in your home a chair? Like when I was growing up in Indiana, in our room, there was Dad's chair, and you didn't get in Dad's chair, right? Only Dad got in Dad's chair. And Dad would fall asleep. It was a recliner, lazy boy. And has there ever been a more appropriately named piece of furniture? But Dad would get in his chair, and he would lay that thing back, or he would go to sleep in front of the television. But that was Dad's chair. Nobody got in Dad's chair. Tammy and I have I joke that one of the most important decisions I ever made in my marriage is what side of the bed were you going to sleep on? Because it's going to be that side for the rest of your life. So anyway, what I realized is human beings are such creatures of habit. I mean, Tammy and I are not going to come into the bedroom tomorrow night or tonight, and she gets on the other side of what she's slept on for the last, 13, 14 years, right? I mean, we fold our arms the same way. We lay on the same side of the bed. We sit in the same chair. We do all of that. We are incredible creatures of habit. Benjamin Franklin said, first we make our habits, then our habits make us. We are incredible creatures of habit. Okay, so that was thought number one. Here's thought number two. We hear negative messages at a ratio of 7 to 1 positive messages. 7 times more negative messages in our life than positive messages. So an exercise I did in conjunction with this book was to start asking kids, tell me things that your mom told you when you were growing up, or what are some of the things your moms are telling you now, right? And almost every one of them were expressed negatively. Think about it. Your mom or dad tells you, don't cross the street without looking both ways. Don't run through the house without scissors in your hand. Don't cross your eyes, they'll stick. Don't leave the house without clean underwear on. Don't. And when you put together the negative messages of 7 to 1 with the fact that we're creatures of habit, is it any wonder that we have a rough time being positive? Because our normal natural reaction is, let's do it the way we've always done it. And it's 7 to 1 with negatives. We convince ourselves that something isn't going to work. We are ruled by our habits. Let's take a second. Hey, Ted, as always, it's great to see you. Cheryl as well. Charles. Well, that's a great, I don't, maybe she was just being so persuasive. She let me assume I had a choice, and that was part of the negotiation process right there, the manipulation process there, maybe. Oh, that's funny, Ted. We tried changing once, and it was awful. I get it. Absolutely. Yeah. Once you're there for the rest of your life, right? So if we have a preponderance of negative messages in our lives, and we know that we do, and if we also understand that human beings are creatures of habit, which we do, is it any wonder that our first reaction is negative? So part of what we need to do, well, Joe, you just hit it on the head right here. We need to stop saying what we can't do and start communicating what we can do. Tammy and I joke because if one of us will leave the house and we want the other to remember to pick up something, we don't say, hey, remember to. Too often we catch ourselves saying, don't forget. And one of the interesting aspects of psychology is that physically, we don't know the difference between a vividly imagined thought and an actual happening. So if you don't believe that's true, don't think of a pink elephant right now. Whatever you do, don't think of what a pink elephant, don't see that pink trunk. Don't see that big pink body. Do not think of a pink elephant. So what are you thinking of right now? Probably a pink elephant. One person one time told me, I'm trying to think of a plaid elephant to help me out. But see, we are so governed by our thoughts, but yet at the same time, the challenge is that we are creatures of habit and most of our thoughts are negative. Therefore, our responses tend to be negative. What can't happen as opposed to what can happen. What can't be done as opposed to what can be done. Jerry, there you go. Just research this for a class, and the average brain has 50,000 thoughts a day. Isn't that incredible? And 70% of them are negative. 70%. 35,000 negative thoughts a day. Crazy. See, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So part of what we have to do is to focus on the positive. It is so much easier to be negative than it is to be positive. Think about this. Businesses don't go out and hire demotivational speakers to come in and hose their people down because they're just too excited about coming to work and doing a good job. Right? Instead, they bring in outside folks or sports heroes or whatever to come in and pump us up, to get us excited, get us motivated about what's going on. So if we know that the negatives are the preponderance of the thoughts that we have, as Jerry shows us, And if we know that we're creatures of habit, what we have to do is to break our habit. Now, here's one of the great things. Habits can be altered. They can be changed. They can be broken. But what it takes is discipline and practice over an extended period of time. If you spent so much of your life with a first response being negative, your first response is not going to be positive. You got to think about it to make it happen. But it's the commitment to do that. It's the commitment to do that. So what you need to remember, as opposed to what you don't forget, what you need to remember is just focus on the positive nature of it. It's fascinating to me that people will read something that someone else said, and it's a thought they've already had, right? They read something and go, gosh, I was just thinking, I thought of that a couple of years ago. We see this with inventions all the time. How many inventions have you seen that you then go, man, I thought of that years ago. I wish I would have, but somebody else. It's interesting that we will listen to other people, but often discount what we hear in ourselves because of this very phenomenon that we're not willing to just say yes. We won't say yes to our own thoughts. Oh, we'll love the thoughts of others, but seldom are we just as anxious to focus on and to think about and to evaluate and to improve the thoughts that we have on our own. So our challenge for this week coming up, I think, is to remember, as the old book says, to just say yes. Hey, look, the joke at the video at church I was talking about a few minutes ago, the joke was, you say yes to everything, you're going to be right at least half the time. I don't think you ought to say yes to everything, obviously. But I think that what we need to do is to get in the habit of positivity, the habit of making things happen, the habit of that. And that's why we're here every day, because something, I need this as bad as anybody. That's why I got up this morning and listened to Jim Rohn before I listened to the minister, before I'm here talking to you, and be back tonight at this evening at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific with my friends Ken and Glenn. And it's just part of what we have to do to keep our batteries charged and keep our spirits lifted. Look, I do believe it's very similar to a battery, and we've got to get it recharged. And if we don't recharge ourselves, and if we don't recharge our thinking, then it's going to tend to go to the negative. It's really a difficult challenge, but it's one we've got to undertake, and it's one we've got to solve. Yeah, unless they hire that irrational guy to talk to him. Yeah, you're right. Hey, Phil, once again, it's Viva La Verve, VIVALAVERVE, VivaLaVerve.org is the website. And the name of the church is Verve, and it is on, nothing says big, it's like this, it's on Dean Martin Avenue. So there you, of course, we're not meeting in church right now, but that's the name of it. Yeah, exactly, Ted. We didn't have the self-confidence to move on the idea. We might have thought of it, but because we have this negative habit, then we tend to discount that thought. And once we discount that thought, then we don't take action. I mean, Ted, you bring up a great point. It's really hard, almost impossible to take action on a negative thought. The projects that I'm working on, the projects that you're working on, they began because it's something that you wanted to take action on, and because you saw a positive result, not because you had a negative viewpoint about it, or not because you envisioned a negative result. We take action on those things of which we imagine positive results. Hey, that's why I talk so much about the customer experience, because the customer experience is what generates a positive result with customers, which means they come back and buy more and they refer you and all that. But if you don't take action on it, and I've worked with so many executives that are bean counters and are negative about anything and would rather, they'd rather manage an expense than enhance an asset. We run into problems in business as well. So what we have to do is to take action on it, have the guts to take action on these positive thoughts. Charles, I read an article yesterday about negative thoughts. The author said, leave them alone, like you've been saying for the few weeks. Just don't. I hadn't thought of it in that way, Charles. That is a great point. It is negative, and it paralyzes us, and it's noise. It's noise. My lovely bride, Tammy, yes, you are paralyzed when it comes out of desperation, right? I mean, that's what we've been talking about before, about the farmer going to the field. And if the farmer says, I need a crop, the crop doesn't grow. But when you bring seed to the field, now you have a crop. You take action on that. You take action on what's going on. So that is so important and so critical. Hey, got one more thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get out of here today. But first of all, before I do that, I've got a big reminder. This is a big week coming for our little show here every day. The book is called Limitless. It was a huge bestseller, continues to be a great bestseller. I highly recommend this book. And the author of the book, Laura Gassner-Otting, is going to be here on Tuesdays when Laura is going to be here. And Brian Fanzo, my pal, is going to be around on Wednesday with us. Check him out online. He is a digital futurist, and he's going to be talking about how all of this with the pandemic is really going to change everything in the future in terms of how we connect digitally and what's going to be, what about this is going to continue even after things start opening up and we move forward. So some really interesting insights are coming from Brian and from Laura. So come here, Fanzo on Wednesday and Laura on Tuesday. Would really love for you to be there. Also, the reminder that we got a lot of free resources for you. Just sign up at distinctionnation.com. There's a free 14-day audio program on how you link your values with your goals, with your daily activities, so that you create personal distinction. And there's an ebook there for you, and there's all kinds of resources. All you got to do is just go sign up. Nothing to buy in terms of your expense to join, nothing like that at all. Just go sign up. It's at distinctionnation.com. Would love to have you there. Also, the reminder, if you'd like more information, like during the day, we've got a internet radio station just called Distinction Radio. And the easiest way to find that is just say to your Amazon device, Alexa, because I've got one behind me, I don't want her to go up, play Distinction Radio. And if you do that, you can hear positive messages 24/7 with what we got with Distinction Radio. Okay, so here is the last thing I want to talk about today, and that's the importance of clarity. You hear me preach about this a lot. Clarity means that you not only know what you are, but you also know what you are not. And there is the problem that most people have with clarity is that they want to be all things to all people. They want to keep everybody happy. And there are numerous quotes by highly successful people that tell you that somebody help me. I'm just absolutely drawing a blank. The greatest quote I think on it is, "I do not know the secret to happiness, but the key to unhappiness is that you try to keep everybody happy." Wow, I just thought that was so powerful. I don't know the secret to happiness, but I knew, though, that the key to unhappiness is that you try to keep everybody else happy. And we have to be very clear about what we are and also where our boundary lines are. It's interesting. We've talked before about Christopher Columbus and the cartographers and the dragons on the map and all that kind of stuff. But one thing that's also interesting when you study the map makers of ancient times is the map makers obviously would have to draw where the boundary lines were. Here is the boundary between country A and country B. So how did they determine where those boundary lines were? I mean, how did you determine where, one country ended and another country began? And it was the battle lines. In other words, country A said, "We'll fight you to this point, but beyond that, we're not willing to commit our men and our resources to die and fight. But we will fight to this point. We are willing to defend our land to this point." So the boundary lines were how far you were willing to go into battle. And I think that's true in clarity with people as well, is that we haven't defined our boundaries because we really haven't thought about what we're not or how far that we will defend who we are and what we are and what we believe in. And so part of what we have to do is to be able to say, this is who we are and this is who we are not. It reminded me of a speech I gave a couple years ago, and it was in Manhattan, beautiful hotel, Midtown Manhattan, and it was for the company SAP, and it was their retail CEO conference. So you had to be a CEO or C-suite of a major retailer to be invited to this conference. So if I wasn't speaking, I couldn't go, right? But they invited me to be one of the keynotes for this conference. So I go down to breakfast. I'm speaking at the morning session, but I know there's a couple things on before me, and they kind of want to surprise everybody with who's on and all that kind of thing. It's kind of a neat thing. And so I go down, and there was this older gentleman. I could tell he was probably in his 80s, and he's sitting there having breakfast alone. So I just sat down with him. It was one of those buffets, so you can just sit anywhere. So I plopped down with him. We start talking, and he asked me, and he's there by himself, right? So he asked me, I'm thinking, kind of interesting. It's a C-suite group. This guy's older guy in his 80s, and so he asked me what I was doing. I said, well, I'm one of the speakers today. And he said, so are you with a guy? I said, no, speaking and writing books. That's what I do for a living. He says, oh man, he said, I'm on first. I'm so glad I don't have to follow a pro like you. And it was so nice, right? So he's done. What books you read? I'm telling me that. And I said, so what organization are you with? He said, well, I've been with a company, but I'm retired now. Oh, really? Well, who'd you retire from? He said, well, I founded a company called Costco. The guy's name is Jim Sinegal. He's a billionaire. He founded, with his partner, he founded Costco. And he's just sitting there by himself eating scrambled eggs, and I'm just plopping down talking to him. He founded Costco. So they go in, they start the meeting, and he gets up, and he didn't want to give a speech, so they interviewed him. And he said a couple of things. He said, it was really clear to us that there were advantages in the marketplace with being a wholesale club type thing. And he had worked for another wholesale type organization. But he said, what I didn't like about it is they thought the thing that was most important was turning merchandise. And so they didn't treat their people right. And they didn't treat their members as well as they should. And he said, I thought that keeping employees was more important than turning merchandise. And I decided what we were and what we were not. And I would like to believe that that is an essential part of what's made Costco great. Is that a great line? We would rather keep employees than turn merchandise, because if our employees are happy, customers will be happy. The merchandise will naturally turn. In other words, turning merchandise should be the result, but not the initial objective. They knew who they were, and they knew who they were not. So then the next speaker gets up. So there's Jim Sinegal's first. So now the next speaker, and then I'm supposed to get up. So the next speaker is a guy named Doug Wood. And Doug Wood is the CEO of Tommy Bahama. And it was a bitterly cold, gusty day in Midtown Manhattan. I mean, you didn't want to go outside. It was so cold. And Doug Wood said, gosh, as cold as it is, and he said, I know these people here from all over the country, many from the South, many from the West. Wouldn't it be great? There's a Tommy Bahama store just a block away. Wouldn't it be great to go down there and get a parka to help you fight the cold? And literally about half the crowd went, yeah, oh, what a great idea. We'll go. And he said, except you'll never find one at any Tommy Bahama store. He said, yeah, this time of year, we could sell a lot of parka down jackets with a Tommy Bahama. That's what made me think of it is I'm wearing it today with a Tommy Bahama brand on it, right? I mean, right now, today in Manhattan, we could sell a lot of those things. We could sell a lot in Midtown Chicago today. We could sell a lot in Minneapolis today. But he said, then we wouldn't be Tommy Bahama, because Tommy Bahama has to stay on brand. And what we are is a lifestyle choice. So he said, it's easier for us to start a restaurant that serves fish and has the tropical feel than it is for us to even put one more piece of clothing that doesn't fit our brand in our stores. You may see a Tommy Bahama restaurant, but you'll never see in our Tommy Bahama stores a parka down jacket. It's not our brand. He was clear about who they are, and just as clear about where their boundary lines, where their battle lines were, just as clear about what they are not. There's a big lesson all of us could learn from that important teaching. Hey, Sheila, how you doing? I know you hate dialysis, but there you go. I make myself put on a smile before I go. You make it a pleasant experience. What if you're the only smile? I think that is so important. First of all, Sheila, I can't imagine somebody that has to go through what you're going through with the dialysis. And second only to that, I can't imagine those wonderful folks that work in a place like that work in a chemo lab, that work in a hospice, that deal with that every day. And I'm sure your smile means a heck of a lot to them, because that one positive thing can make a really, really significant difference. Yeah, Kathy Costco, I know, is done. They just opened a new one right over here by us in Vegas, and I mean, it's people put their masks on, stand 6 feet for each other, and the line wraps around the entire store. It's crazy what they're doing. Hey, Pam, well, see, you can take the boy out of the farm, but you can't take his stories away from the barnyard, right? I guess is me. Hey, that's all the time that we've got today. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking part in what we do here on Daily Distinction every day. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. See you tonight at 8 o'clock. See you tomorrow at noon here with Daily Distinction. See you.